Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Stories with Bree. I am super excited about my guest today is Mr. Richard Ashby Jr., and he is going to take a couple moments to introduce himself to you all. Please feel free, Richard, to introduce yourself to my audience.
Good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on who you are. My name is Richard E Ashby Jr., and I am a librarian, to be more exact. I'm the director of the Sharon Hill Public Library in beautiful downtown Sharon Hill, which is the suburbs of Pennsylvania. I am the past president of the New York State Black Librarians. I'm the immediate past president of the National Black Librarians, which is the Black Caucus of the American Library Association. I am the current vice president and co-founder of the Pennsylvania Black Librarians, and the 2018 Librarian of the Year for the Black Caucus. I'm the 2016 Movers and Shakers Award, awarded by the Library Journal. And I am also the co-founder and owner of Literacy Nation, where our motto is with literacy and justice for all. Because you know, America says with liberty and justice, but you know what I know, without literacy, you will receive no justice.
Absolutely.
And that's who I am.
Yes, and thank you so much for taking the time to mention all of your accolades. You, my sir, have been very busy in the library world. And so I love to hear that, you know, to see our people, to see African Americans, to see Black people active in whatever field of study that they're in. And it's my goal to, and I aspire to do some of those same things that you've done. So I love to talk. This is part of the reason why I'm having these conversations and talks with Black librarians and with authors and with people who just are in love with literature, because it gives me an idea of, or a scope of where I may want to go or places that I've been. And like I said, I just really appreciate you taking the time to list your accolades, because we need to celebrate ourselves, and you did just that. So starting this podcast off, first off, thank you for coming on the show. Casey Boyd, I had her, who is now the 2022 School Librarian of the Year. She mentioned you to me, and I was like, his name is familiar. I know that name. And she was like, he's known as the Sidewalk Librarian on Instagram. I was like, okay, that sounds familiar. But then I realized that just like Casey is, I told her, I've just probably been in some spaces with you. You might not have known I was in there, but I was in some, I do my best to try to keep up on things that are happening in the library world. And so I often just go to a lot of different, like, either I see them on demand, a lot of different conferences and things of that nature, or talks that are being had. And then I also am now back on Clubhouse. So I'm now in your room on Clubhouse. So I got a chance to kind of visit in on some of those things as well. And so when we start off the podcast here, I like to ask all of my guests a few icebreakers. So I'm going to start you off with those things as well. And so if you can remember, what's your favorite childhood book?
My favorite childhood book is a book called Soul Brothers and Sister Lou. I read that book when I was about 13, 14 years old. Okay. That was the first book that I saw Black people in.
Wow. Yeah, that's a long way to go. And you just now seeing Black people. I mean, for me, I would say I was a little younger when I first started to really, and I think because my grandmother, she did a really good job of advocating for, this is what I want you to see, people that look like you. So I was a little bit younger when I saw Black people in the book, but I mean, it still took a long time to start surrounding myself around more African-American characters and stuff. So,
well, that wasn't the first Black person I saw. Mm-hmm. That was the first positive. The first Black person I saw in the book was Little Black Sambo.
Yeah.
And that was
that book's very controversial.
Very controversial. That was I'm telling you how old I am. That was back in about 1960, 1961.
Wow.
When I first saw that book.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, and that was in the thick of it. That's in the thick of the civil rights movement.
That's where I grew up. I grew up in the thick of the civil rights movement.
Yeah. And which is just look, if we switch over there, I have so many I have so many questions. So I'm trying to stay focused, but
I cleared my calendar for you. So
yeah.
as long as it takes for you to ask questions, let's just have a conversation.
Yeah, that's kind of how I like to do this. I like to just have a conversation because you mentioned something about the civil rights movement, and it was actually in college, not when I got my library degree, but in undergrad, when there was an article in, I believe, the ALA Journal, and they talked about, which we kind of knew, but it's like these things, but you don't really, it doesn't click until you actually see it on paper. One of the things was talking about the article was talking about how libraries were segregated during the civil rights movement, during Jim Crow South, and how a lot of the libraries in the South didn't get desegregated until like almost the 1970s. And so as I was doing this research, I was like, wait a minute, it didn't click in my mind. It was like, well, that makes sense, because when you think about post that, you talking about slavery and all these things where it was illegal for a Black person to read, to learn how to read. And so just thinking about just the timeline, it was like, okay, I can't believe that we're only about maybe 60 or so years post desegregating libraries. We're rounding up to about 70 some years now, but still, it's still a very short time span within this time where we have libraries that are now open spaces. And so I feel like, do you see that the benefits of, well, I guess how should I word this? Do you see how that has affected maybe in many ways the ability for African American, Black librarians, or people of color even getting into the field? Do you believe that brief moment in history is also playing a factor in why we are still dealing with trying to get more people of color inside the field of librarianship?
So you can make laws, but you can't change hearts.
Mm-hmm.
You can't change hearts. And so it's ironic that we were being beat, killed, punished for reading. And now we are running libraries. We are, we have directors. Look at Carla Hayden, top librarian in the country, a Black woman.
Yes.
We have library directors that are library managers. These are all black people. So I don't look at what happened in the 60s as a hindrance. I look at what happened in the 60s and 70s and 50s and 40s and 30s and 20s. I look at it as a point of reference.
Okay.
As to why I do what I do and why I have to be the best at what I do. So that's my kryptonite.
Yeah, I understand, and I feel you on that. I feel like for me, and I've mentioned on a couple other episodes that libraries have always been my thing, and no wonder I actually ended up becoming a librarian. But libraries have always been my safe space, and I don't remember a time and period in my life where I wasn't surrounded by books or weren't being engaged in some form of librarianship in many ways. And I think that is just super important, that literature and literacy be open and accessible to all people. And I like what you're doing with Literacy Nation, because I was looking on your website and I just recently refreshed myself and looking at the mission. And I was like, oh, this is things that I didn't know. Like, you call yourself the Sidewalk Librarian. And I was like, oh, maybe that's just a clever name. But then as I dive deeper into the website, I was like, oh, this is why he's considering himself the Sidewalk Librarian, because you do a lot of outreach and literacy in West Philly. And please talk to us about Literacy Nation, and why did you think it was important for you to get out? I read some other things about, you saying that if the drug dealers are out here on this corner, then guess what? I'm going to supply the antidote, which I thought was a clever way of saying it. But why was Literacy Nation so important to you, and so important to you to to implement in your neighborhood?
So Literacy Nation came about because I was passionate about being a librarian. I didn't start out in life wanting to be a librarian. I wanted to be a Baptist minister and civil rights leader and a lawyer. I had met Dr. Martin Luther King when I was 9 years old. Growing up, I was a horrible reader. Hated libraries. Just hated libraries. And my mother told me when I was 15, she said, she looked at me one day and I was talking about how I didn't like libraries. And she said, "You're going to be a librarian one day." And I thought to myself, this lady has lost her cotton picking mind. But I didn't say that because my mother's a Black woman out of North Carolina.
Big pop in your mouth.
And so when she said that, I was like, this is absolutely crazy. And I went back to get my master's degree in library science when I was 50 years old. And so when I received my degree, things went awry quickly, because when I went to get my degree, they asked me what type of librarian did I want to be. And I said, I want to be a library director. I'm 50 years old. I want to be a library director. And they said, you can't be a library director coming out of school. You have to have your master's degree for 5 to 8 years. And you have to be a librarian, a professional librarian, and you have to, work your way up to a librarian, to a director. And I said to the woman at Queens College in New York City, I said, you don't know the God I serve.
Yeah, come on. Come on.
I'm going to school to be a library director. She's like, no, you can't. I said, yes, I can. She said, well, you have to pick a discipline. I said, well, let's go with public librarian. Became a public librarian. 4 months after getting my degree, I was appointed interim director of a library. And after that, I was diagnosed with cancer. Then after I came back from cancer, they were happy to see me back at the job, and they fired me. They fired me. And my wife's like, my wife is like, okay, you need a job. I said, I can't do anything. I'm a librarian. She's like, you've done things for 50 years. You've done a lot of things. What do you want to do with life? I said, I want to be a librarian. This is what God has me as, a librarian. And she's like, boy, you need a job, brother. I was like, I can't get a job. And one night I was asleep, and I woke, and in my dream, the name Literacy Nation came to me. And I woke my wife up like 4 o'clock in the morning. I said, honey, God just told me what to do. And she's like, well, what? She told me to start my own company called Literacy Nation. And she said, what is Literacy Nation? What's it going to do? I said, I don't know, but I'm gonna start my own company, a 501c3. So she's like, okay, well, let's start a 501c3, but can we go back to sleep now? We started Literacy Nation. We came up with a mission plan. I knew I wanted to do something with books. And about a month later, God said to me, here's your tagline, with literacy and justice for all. And I woke my wife up again, 3 in the morning. Honey, what? God said to call it literacy and justice for all. She said, well, can't God talk to you like during the regular hours? Why you and God got to have these conversations when I'm trying to sleep? And we did with literacy and justice for all. So we went and got our 501c3. We got the motto. It's going to do something about libraries. I don't know. Books. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. And a friend of mine in Philadelphia, Darren Cotman, he's a librarian. He's also my alpha brother. He says, well, listen, I'm having a program at my library, and I want you to come down. Literacy Nation, come down. I didn't know anything about what am I going to do. And I was watching Oprah. And at the end of the credits, it said, books supplied by First Books. So I was like, wow, First Books. They gave Oprah those books. And I said, I don't know. And then, life is funny. Some guy emailed me out of the blue. Hi, Literacy Nation, I can help you get books. I can write you grants. I can get you grants through First Book. I can write you grants.
Wow.
I was like, okay. So I said, let me call this guy. I made a deal with him to write grants. And I went online and I looked up First Books, and it said, submit a grant. And I looked and submitted a grant for First Books. Says, and this is what it amounts to. Name of the company, 501c3, and what would you do with the books? They want less than 100 words.
Wow.
I said, what? This guy was charging me thousands of dollars. So I didn't give him any money. I wrote the grant myself, and I received like 400 books from First Book. And I went down to this library. I made the date to go down to the library, went down to this library in Philadelphia. I did a program about Literacy Nation, never had done anything for Literacy Nation before. And I gave out books to the kids. And as I was leaving, a lady says to me, she says, it was on the radio. And she said, hi, I just heard you on the radio. She's all out of breath. I was like, okay, thank you. She's like, you're fantastic. I love your mission, your passion and your mission. Right. I said, great. She says, what would you do if I gave you a building?
Wow.
I said, what would I do if you gave me a building? I said, what I said, a building? I said, well, I can't afford a building. She goes, are you a librarian, right? I said, yeah. She goes, so why can't you understand my questions? I was like, whoa. She said, what would you do if I gave you a building? And I said, she said, you said in there, if you're looking for a building to start a library. I said, yeah. She says, well, I have a building I'm going to give you.
My God.
And I said, wow. And I said, listen, I can't afford a building. I said, I can't afford the heat, the rent. You know. She said, you're not listening, brother. I said, I'm going to give you a building. I said, well, what does that entail? She said, I'm going to give you my building to use. I'm going to pay the gas. I'm going to pay the electricity. I'm going to pay the rent. And I'm going to put a phone in there for you if you build this library. Wow. She says, I have the keys right now. We can go look at the building. And I said to myself, now, wait a minute. Hold up. You married to a Black woman. You cannot come home with no keys talking about some woman gave you a building. So I said, listen, I'll come back tonight. I said, let me go home and tell my wife, and we'll have a conversation with you together. And I went home that evening, and my wife said, so what happened today, honey? I said, well, the lady gave me a building. She looked at me, she says, well, what did you do for the lady to give you a building? I said, that's why I didn't take the keys, because I know who you are. And we went down. And we went down, the lady gave us the building to the library, 12 rooms, wrote some more grants from First Books. We put 12 rooms, we put 12 books in 12 rooms. We put over 5,000 books in a room, built a library. I went to Philadelphia Free Library. I took the courses for to be a GED instructor, English as a second language, and English as a second language, and all these courses to teach literacy at the library. Contacted the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, had the after school program, the meals. So we opened up a library.
Wow.
One day we came to work. It's in the middle of the hood. They're selling drugs on the steps. I got to keep asking the brothers to get off the steps. The sisters are on the steps doing what they do, selling what they sell. Right. And my wife's like, it's dangerous over here. I'm like, well, listen, I'm in the hood. This is what I'm supposed to be. Right. Came to work one morning and there was a bullet hole in the door.
Wow. The
bullet hole went through the door, right to the seat where I sat. Didn't hit the seat, but it hit the wall next to where my desk was. And so she said, we gotta move, you gotta pack up. And I said, why? I'm like, no, I'm not scared. She said, I know you from New York, I know you tough, but we can't have this. We can't have this. You cannot be inside this building and all this stuff is going on outside, and you don't see what's going on and you can't take care of yourself. So she says, well, when I get back from work, go get a U-Haul truck, put everything in the U-Haul, go get a storage bin and put this stuff in the storage bin somewhere, go get a storage unit. And when she left, God said to me, and I was sitting there, I was starting to pack up the library, and God said, you don't have to listen to her. God?
Right. Right.
God? And she said that you can't be in the building because you can't see. He said, put the building outside. I said, what? He said, put the library outside on the sidewalk. I said, what? So I took 2 tables. I put some books on the sidewalk for the children. I put some books on the side on this table for adults. I took another 2 tables. I put the 4 laptops out on the sidewalk. I put my little desk on the sidewalk with my laptop, my cell phone, some milk crates behind me with some ready reference. And I sat outside, and then the kids, now all the kids see the books. They're getting the books off the table because they're free. At the library, you can only check the books out. You can't check them back in. You have to pass them on. Right. And the sisters are out getting their Sister Soldier books and the Quran. So they're getting their street novels off. And now the brothers, they come outside and they see me on the sidewalk. They're like, yo, dude, what you doing, man? What you doing out here? Because I'm on their spot, their corner. So I said, yo, I'm slinging books. What you slinging? They said, who you do? I said, I'm a librarian. Well, what black man want to be a librarian, dude? What are you, sweet? I said, nah, man, I'm not sweet. I'm a librarian. And we have these conversations, and I talk about my life with them, and I like basically I'm witnessing to them about my life and how I got to where I am. And at the end of the day, my wife comes by and she goes, what's going on? I thought I told you to move. She goes, look at all these people out here, people's on the computer, people getting books. She goes, what happened? So I told her what happened. And she goes, oh, so now you're the sidewalk librarian.
Trying to be funny.
Now you're the, so I said, that's it. I'm the sidewalk librarian. And then when it was time to close up at night, so every day I would go and put the library on the sidewalk, and then brothers would come help me, and I would give them 20, 15, whatever dollars to help. And I would say to them, and I said to them, why do you guys have jobs? You're like, you're doing this every day. I see you running from the police and carrying on. Yo, man, anybody gonna hire us? And these brothers are bright, bright young men. And I said, why are they hiring? We don't have any reference. We don't work for anybody. I said, well, you work for me now. They said, you do? I said, yeah, you work for me. You put away the books. You always help me out. I gave them my card. They was like, yo, dude, this is you with all this? I said, yes, me. I said, now we're gonna sit down on this computer and we're gonna apply to McDonald's, we're gonna apply to Lowe's, we're gonna apply to Home Depot. And when they call me, I'm gonna tell them, yes, I know you because you work for me. Well, why would you do that for me? Why wouldn't I do that for you? And so people say, well, why would you do that? I said, because I'm in my 50s, early 60s, and I'm from New York City. And all my life, I seen Italians and Jews promote, push, and helping their young people, giving them references. I said, and we get positions and we get in positions and we get scared. If I help him, he can't do nothing to nobody could do anything to my name because God put me here. God gave me this. So I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of anybody. So I give my card out. I give references out. Yeah. That's what the sidewalk librarian do. Sidewalk is accessible. And that's who I am. I'm accessible.
Yes. And that's, you just said, listen, I'm soaking it all up because you just said drop so many gems and so many blessings. And that is like, we can really shift gears here because look, I am as I say, I'm a certified church girl, but you said so many things. And that's what it is. It's about the library being accessible. It's about it making, like you creating a space inside of a community where the people can engage, where they can see like, this is fun. This is for you. This is not a place where we have it in your community, but you're not welcome on the inside. This is a space where you're welcome on the inside and the outside. And then this is how we are expanding. And you said something that I thought was quite interesting. Like you said, normally, traditionally in the library, you come in, you check out a book and you check it back in. You're saying that you only check books out and then you have to pass it on. What made you decide to do that concept? I know that you have grant funding and stuff like that, and that some of those grants are written differently, but what made you decide that this is the type of library that we're going to be? We're going to be a library that not only lets you check things out, but then we're going to incorporate an act of kindness and attach that to that. What were your thought processes on creating that space like that?
Because in the traditional library, I see so many children not come to the library because they owe for a book. Yeah. I see parents who owe for a book, get library cards out in their children's name. And now little Jamisha comes to the library, she's only 10, but she have cookbooks out. She didn't take out those cookbooks. Her mother took out those cookbooks. Right. And so many people don't come to the library because they forget the book. They lost the book, blah, blah, blah. Don't be afraid to come back. Take the book, pass it on, give it to your cousin, give it to your little sister, give it to a neighbor. So you pass that book on, and now we don't have to worry. Now you don't have to worry about me being mad because you didn't bring the book back on time.
Exactly. And so I assume that, of course, you guys have all of these different type of funding backings and things in place because if you don't, you just continue to just do it.
My wife and I, we fund Literacy Nation 100%.
Wow.
Every year. And the reason we did that, because when I built my library, Drexel University came down because I wanted to use some interns. And Drexel University came into the library and they started telling me what I would have to do and what I couldn't do and what I can do and what I couldn't do if they gave me money. And I said to them, my wife said, you're crazy. I said, thank you all for coming, but you can get up and get out my library.
I know that's right.
You can get up and get out. They was like, oh. I said, you can get up and get out. This is my library, right? I'm a certified librarian with a master's degree. I'm a certified solo librarian. That means I'm certified to be the only librarian in the building. So then you coming in here telling me what I can do?
Right.
This ain't 1865, but I can be Nat Turner. Y'all keep it up.
Let them know. Listen, let them know, like, hold on, plan. This is the wrong space.
Exactly. I put my building. And we for the first 10 years, we just sponsored everything ourselves. We would drop money into the Literacy Nation account, and we run off of that. And we would do fundraisers, like we would do what we call the readathon at libraries. And we would do a readathon. It would cost us about $500 to put the readathon on. We would raise about $4,000 to $5,000, and we took every dime that we raised from the readathon. Every dime goes back to the library we raised the money for. The $500 that we put out is what we just put out. So when we do fundraisers for people, for organizations, we give that organization 100% of the money. We don't take out administrative fees, shelving fees, all these crazy fees people come up with. When we do a fundraiser for your organization, we give you 100% of the money, and the books are open where you can see exactly how much we made and exactly how much we're giving to you.
Wow, that's a blessing. That's such a blessing because like this is a true testament, as you were saying. You mentioned a lot of times, and I understand that your faith is deeply connected and deeply rooted into Literacy Nation. And you mentioned it, and that's just a testament to how God's favor can be on your life when you're doing and walking in purpose and doing the thing that He has called you to according to His purpose. Because you say you've been doing this for over 10 years. And you ain't, I assume that there has never been a day where you lacked, that everything has been constant and consistently flowing. And even in those.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. So by me having Literacy Nation, by getting fired and having Literacy Nation and naming myself director. Mm-hmm. So now when library jobs, and I registered myself with the ALA, I registered the library with everybody and anybody I could, spend all kind of money on it. So now I'm a library director.
Right.
And I'm still going to ALA, I'm still going to PLA, I'm going to all these conferences under the name of Literacy Nation. Mm-hmm. So now when the library when the traditional library positions open up, I apply. Mm-hmm. And then they see how I'm a director of a library, a Literacy Nation library, a community library, and I got my another library director job in Yaden, PA. And we did that for 6 years. And then God sent me up to Pittsburgh for 2 years. Mm-hmm. I did that for 2 years. Then God sent me down here to Sharon Hill. And I've been here for like 3 months. All these are small libraries. All of these are libraries that when I got there, they were dead in the water on life support. They called the family and said, come on in. You're not going to make it. And what we do is we take libraries and we rebuild them.
Yeah.
Well, and so far.
I mean, that's what you just switch my brain over, Mr. Richard, because all them scriptures keep coming up. That's what in Isaiah, I believe it's 54:12, where it says we're called to be repairs of broken walls, restorers of streets with dwellings. So that I mean, that's what you're doing. You're actively doing that, and it's a beautiful thing. It's just. I am just in awe. That's all I can say. I am in awe having this conversation with you, discussing how, you did to have the audacity to tell that professor, like, I heard what you saying and I see what you're talking about, but this is what I'm going to do. And you have consistently shown that this is what I'm going to do. And I also, eventually at some point I would love to be a library director in that type of position as well. But I love the fact that you had the audacity to say, this is what my future is going to look like, even though you're trying to plant the seed of doubt. I don't want to hear all that. I didn't say what I said.
Nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that. I didn't say what I said when I said it.
Exactly. And so, like I named all the things I'm president of. When I became president of New York Black Librarians Caucus, ain't nobody vote me in to be president. My wife and I went to the first meeting. There was an argument there. The vice president quit. The president went home mad. Half the members went home mad. I looked at my wife and I said, oh, this is it. She said, it's what? I said, this is my turn to get in. She said, but they don't know you. I said, that's okay. I said, so I wrote the president and I said, I saw the vice president resigned. Sorry for I saw the trouble that you had at the meeting. I would like to volunteer to serve out the vice president's term. And, as your vice president, I'll work with you. And she said, yes. So we went back to the next meeting. The votes were split. They didn't even know me because I just became a librarian, and the votes were split, and they voted me in as the vice president. But when they realized what they had done, they were like, wait a minute. We've never even seen this guy before. We just voted him as vice president, and the vice president takes over as the presidency when the president's term is up.
Yeah.
And the president had only 1 year to go. So it was like, you ever read The Spook Who Sat by the Door?
No, I've heard of it.
So it was like The Spook Who Sat by the Door. They just voted for me because they didn't want to vote for anybody else. So I became the president of the Black Caucus in New York. And I became vice president out of default. And then I said, I went to a conference in DC, and the Black Caucus of the American Library Association was there, and all the librarians, and they're full of themselves, and they're Black librarians. And I said to my friend, I said, I'm going to be president of these people. She said, they don't even like you. I said, you don't have to like me. I said, all you have to do is know how to network. And I networked. I ran for president of the Black Caucus of the American Library Association. I voted for myself, and I won by 1 vote. It wasn't like no landslide. Everybody wanted me to be president. I won by 1 vote. Come on now.
Listen, you set yourself. Come on, if you put yourself in position, then
put yourself in position.
He will show up on your behalf, and I know it to be true. I know it to be true, Mr. Richard, because he has showed up for me this year. Like, I just put myself in position, just being a willing vessel to do what it is that he's told you to do. Like, this is me being a willing vessel, me having these conversations with Black librarians, with authors and stuff. I'm just being a willing vessel, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna send these emails out. I'm gonna trust you. I'm gonna trust the process.
That's right. You just gotta trust the process.
Right.
All you have to do, you said you want to be a library director. You're going to be a library director. I can see it in you. All you have to do is set yourself up for the position. All you have to do is get yourself ready mentally, because it's yours. It's yours already. Get yourself ready mentally. Go to these conferences. Network. Soak up everything you can in that library, every position you can. Now, it's not my position. I'm not getting paid for that. You're going to get paid.
Yeah.
You're gonna reap what you sow. Walk in it. You will be put out. Where do you live? Where are you from?
I'm from Illinois. I'm from Southern Illinois, East St. Louis, Illinois.
Keep working at it. Keep praying about it, and keep setting yourself up for the position. Become a head librarian. Become this branch manager. Just build your resume, and your time is going to come. You will be a library director.
I receive it now. I sure do. I receive it right now. I just thank you for that. I thank you for planting that seed, because I believe it too. I believe that I will be, and I know that it's coming. I'm just, as you say, set yourself up for it. Set yourself up for it and prepare. And that's what I've been doing. I've been preparing. I've been praying on it consistently.
So why haven't I ever met you? Because you've been to the conferences.
I don't know. I haven't been to a whole lot. I will say that I haven't been to a whole lot of conferences, but I've been to a couple of them. But the library world, although it is small and it's still very much so large and expensive, but I don't get the opportunity to go to a lot of them. But I've been to ALA, but ALA is huge. And so but
when's the next one you're going to? What's the next one? I'm the co-chair of the Joint Conference of Libraries of Color. Conference, and we're going to be in St. Pete this year. I would love for you to come down and be a part of it.
Okay, I'll have to do. Well, we definitely have to talk about that, because I would love to have the opportunity. Your camera is off, though. I will tell you that, Mr. Richard.
Am I still there?
Okay, there you go. You're still here.
Okay.
Still here. So moving back into, first off, Literacy Nation is just wow. But as I told you, I've been in a couple of your rooms, and I noticed that you do a lot of work with self-published authors and in helping them to promote their material? And why do you think that that is important? I am a publisher as well, so I also work with a lot of independent self-published authors. And so, like I said, being inside of that room, being inside those spaces, I'm like, oh, okay, I see. I get my feelings and hear. I think one of the ones that you just recently did was with I can't call her name off the top of my head, but I know her book is All Black is Everything, All Black Everything.
Everything, Chanel, yes.
Yeah, Chanel, there it is. And so I was in there and I was listening to her talking. I was like, okay, this is on my TBR, my to be read. I'm gonna purchase her book, of course, and support her. But I love the fact that you, even in the space, you made room for her and said, okay, this, and this. I'm gonna hook you up with this person, I'm gonna hook you up with that person, and we're gonna make sure that your information gets pushed out there, which is what you said is also a component of Literacy Nation. Why did you think that that was important for you, specifically to make sure that there's access created for authors of color who are self-publishing or, independent publishing?
So that this journey with the independent authors started a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you start things and so a long time ago, I had a fiance who passed away, and nobody would let me cry. Nah, I don't cry. So I said, what's the best way to mourn? And get on a Greyhound bus, because everybody on the Greyhound bus is crying, because you crying because you got put out of town. A lot of people on the Greyhound bus have been put out of town or put out of service. So you can cry. So I used to ride Greyhound buses from New York to California, back to New York.
Wow.
just to cry. And I got one day on the bus, I get on the bus and somebody's already crying. The sister, she got this big bag with her and she just boo-hoo-hooing. And I said, well, I started talking, I said, what's the problem, blah, blah. And she said she had this bag of books and she was trying to be an author. And my God, her name escapes me. And she was trying to be an author. And so I said, well, I work in a library. Give me your book, and I'll put it in the I have it put in the library for you. I was just a library page, and I had it put into the library. Never saw the girl again in life.
Wow.
And then when I became a director, black people come into the library and say, "Can you put my book into the library?" Sometimes the books were good. Sometimes it just wasn't.
Yeah.
But this is what somebody did. This is their heart. They poured their hand into it. So I would just catalog them and put them into the books, put them into the library, put them into a local author shelf.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a local author. And then the pandemic hit, and I was speaking to someone, and she said to me, she said that she came to the library in tears with her book up in Pittsburgh, and she said she had been trying to get her book in the library. And every time she goes to a library, the librarian would hand her a piece of paper and say, see if your book fits into this, and see if it fits into this, and we could put your book into it. I said, well, what is it? She says, I don't know. It says collection and development policy. I said, okay. Light went off. I said, give me a couple of weeks and then come back. And so I said, if the collection and development policy is what's keeping independent authors out of the library,
wow,
and you're the director, and you've been the president of you've been the president of everything Black in America for librarians, go upstairs and write a letter to your board of trustees and tell them that one of the ways you will stay at this library if you have complete control of the collection and development policy. They didn't care about that. They were like, sure, what do we care? And I wrote the collection and development policy to include independent authors.
Change the policy.
Change the policy, right?
The space, yep.
And so now I'm looking around. So now I get on Clubhouse, and I'm on Clubhouse. And the first person one of the first persons I meet is this lady. She comes on and she goes, oh my God, I've been looking for you. Oh my God, she's carrying on. And my wife's like, who is this? I'm like, I don't know. I can't see her face. And she said, you don't remember me? I said, no, I don't. She says, I met you on a bus about 20 years ago. I was crying on the bus and you took my book. Wow. And now I'm an author. And so I said, wow. And so on Clubhouse, and the pandemic let me see that women, Black women, are writing books
Yes.
about experiences, about trauma, about experienced microaggressions,
Yeah.
about not being legitimate, not being recognized. They're writing these books.
Yep.
They're writing, and then they're also writing children's books.
Mm-hmm.
They're writing fictions. They're writing nonfictions. Some people are writing graphic novels.
Yep.
What are we doing with these books that we're writing during this pandemic? That we're writing this new woke period? We're putting the books in your closet, under your mattress. No, let me take those books. Let me catalog them. Let me put them in the library.
Yeah.
And when Mrs. Johnson calls me and she says, "Mr. Ashby, I sent you my book. Where's it at?" And I say, "I don't know, Miss Johnson. Can you just do this? Google worldcat.org, and put your name or put your book in it in the search, and call me back later. Mr. Ashby, my book is in the book, and my book is in the World Cat. Oh my God, I can't." And then I start sending them pictures of their book in the library. Then I start, when people send me their books and their packages, I open the packages up on Instagram Live. I sing, I dance with it. I show the picture of the book in the library. I tell them to go to the World Cat, because now you're not only Miss Johnson, you're author Teresa Johnson forever, because you've been cataloged.
Because you've been cataloged.
Because you've been cataloged. And that's such a big deal to authors, women, men, women. It's such a big deal to see that you can make such a big difference in someone's life just by putting their name on a database with some numbers behind it. You're giving them a Dewey Decimal. Who thought, Dewey Decimal System is so racist. Who thought that the Dewey Decimal System would bring so much joy to Black people? I know Dewey didn't think that when he made it, but we flipped the script.
Yeah. Dewey is a very, it's a lot of things wrong with the Dewey Decimal System. It's a lot of things wrong with it, and I like the fact that it's slowly but surely getting phased out. The Library of Congress has, created their own system, and their system is starting to take over. And a lot of people are, and to be quite honest, it's easier to use, it's easier to manage, because Dewey can be very confusing, and you'll be you'll be thinking the book supposed to be one place, and you find out that it's in a whole nother section, and it's like, why is this over here?
It's not over there. It's hidden. They hide our books.
Yeah, and they get lost inside of it. So I definitely understand why people have decided to kind of like really move away from it.
Yes.
And I love how you said that that's something that you're doing. And when I get in the position to do that, I plan to do that as well, because like I said, I work with a lot of independent authors, and predominantly of those independent authors are Black women, and they have their books. They have their books in Barnes and Noble. They have their books on Amazon, and they are making sales. And one of the authors that I work with, she recently did get her book placed in the library. And she did that as a connection because she used to work at the library, that it got put into the system. And I think they may have purchased her book, and she just didn't know that they had purchased it. And then she was randomly in the library and she saw that they put her in the catalog. And I thought that was amazing. And so that you just gave me an idea. You just gave me something that I didn't realize that I, of course, as a librarian, could possibly advocate and do for them, which is go to local libraries and advocate for their books being put into the system. And I have I have a mission now that I'm going to do, because it's an idea. So when I go home, back home, because I currently preside in Arlington, Virginia. So when I go back home to my hometown, most of the artists I've worked with are from that hometown, and I'm going to go to the library.
So here's how you navigate those waters. You get the book put into the system, right? Now once the book is in the system, they are legitimized. And you tell your authors, when they go to libraries, do not go into the library and say, "Hi, I'm an independent author, and I want you to put my book into your library." Wrong. No. So they go to the library and say, "Hi, I'm an author. I'm in the World Catalog, and I am in such and such library. I would like to donate a book and possibly do a free book talk." Now, the reason you don't say you're an independent author is because you don't go to the motor vehicle to get yourself a license and say, "Hi, I'm a freed slave." You don't do it. You don't do it. So
No.
you just say, "Hi, I'm an author," and that's leave it at that.
Mhm.
Um, because let's just leave it at that. And we could talk off camera because I can give you some more information on about your. I didn't know you were a publisher. I just left a conference in, where was I at? Portland.
Okay.
Made a lot of connections, and I would like you to connect with Literacy Nation.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot. See, here's the thing. Me, you, and everybody else in America, we don't need to make 500 different pies.
No.
There's enough money, accolades and everything for everybody. We need to
Absolutely.
work together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because here's how I work. It ain't about me, it's about the product we're trying to get out.
Yep.
We're trying to get books into our Black and brown children and men and women hands. We're trying to get books into children's hands, especially picture books that are windows and mirrors, windows for them to see a new world and mirrors to see themselves.
That's good. That's good. Yes, and but that's part of the reason why I actually created Stories with Bree and specifically created this podcast because, like I said, it's for me to build my network. And I've always been of the school that, even if you don't let me into a space, I create my own space. And so this is part of me creating my own space. And as a result of me creating this space, it has unlocked some things and opened up some doors for me that were, I guess, traditionally closed, or not necessarily maybe closed, but I just wasn't aware that they were there. And so as I have these conversations, as I talk with you about your projects and the things that you have going on, that helps to unlock spaces for not only me, but the people that are coming with me. And so the more you know, the more you grow. And I definitely appreciate it so much. So yeah, we'll definitely talk about that off camera. But I have two more questions for you, and then I'm gonna get ready and let you go. So my other question is, like, growing up, I know you grew up through the civil rights movement, but did you see librarians that look like you while you were growing up?
No, I didn't see. Now, here's the beautiful part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I never worked maybe 2 days for a white librarian.
Wow.
When I was in college, the director of the library was a Black man. This is in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
When I got out of college and my first job, I started out as a security guard in the library.
Okay.
The director was a Black man. This one white lady came after he retired. She lasted for about a week and she left. And a Black lady took over. So I've never worked for anybody white in a library. So I have been blessed at that. Growing up, it was all old white ladies was the only ones in the library, and they used to shush me. My first job in the library, I think I worked for 2 hours and they fired me because I wouldn't stop chewing gum.
Oh wow.
I was in New York City. And
Oh
she
wow.
said, spit out your gum and stop talking. I was talking to my friend, and we went to lunch and we never went back.
Wow.
But it was always old white women. And my first book that I remember, the first books I started was reading, besides the Dick and Jane and all those books, was Pippi Longstockings.
Mm.
Little black boy in love with Pippi Longstocking. She was crazy as a jaybird.
That's
Pippi,
so funny.
Pippi in the South Seas, all the Pippi Longstockings books. And I used to go to libraries and ask the lady, do we have any more Pippi Longstocking books? And I was like, well, can we write the author and ask her to write more books? And then later in life, I fell in love with my favorite book, my all-time favorite book, besides Soul Brothers and Sister Lou, is Bud Not Buddy.
I'm aware. I've never read Bud Not Buddy.
Oh
But
my
I know
God.
what it is.
You have to read the book, and the audiobook is so good. The audiobook is so good that when it came to the end, before it got to the end, I cut it off. And my wife said, why'd you stop it? I was like, because I don't want him to go. I don't want to. And it took me 3 months to turn it back on to finish the book because I didn't want the character Bud to go.
Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to check it out for sure, for sure. So that's funny. But I guess my last question for you, because you're already doing this, but I really want to know what are your, I guess, your future plans and future thoughts on it. How are you continuing to create an environment that promotes learning and literacy in library settings, in libraries, in Literacy Nation? How are you doing that?
Well, one of the things I do is I mentor a lot of people. I mentored the current president of the Black Caucus. She was my vice president. I mentored her into the office of president of the Black Caucus. The young lady taking office. She was a young lady that was coming to the caucus, and I saw her. I saw something in her. I mentored her, and now she's getting ready to take office. The young lady who's the secretary, I saw something in her. I mentored her. She became the secretary. I mentor people. I pour into them what was poured into me throughout life. I encourage them. Now, when I say mentor, I don't teach them. They're brilliant young ladies. They're brilliant young men. What I do is I encourage them. I'm a sounding board. So if somebody do something mad at your work, do something make you mad at work, I'm there. Let's talk about them. Let's talk about them. And now that we talked about them and talked about their mamas, now we got that out of our system. Now, what is our strategy? How are we going to go back to work and be professional and deal with this? That's, you know, because when me and you behind closed doors, we ain't got to be professional. Yeah, the mama was probably had 3 arms. You know, we're going to talk about your bag. We're going to get it out of our system, and now we're going to figure out what can we do professionally to make this work for us and keep us moving ahead and going. But let's just get it out of our system. I'm not one of those. Oh, you know, I want you to get a hold of this over here and we're gonna think about this thing. Oh, come on, be for real. We gotta go to the kitchen, we're gonna get some Kool-Aid, we're gonna talk about everybody in the building. We're gonna break them.
And then we're gonna get ourselves together and act like we got some sense.
Yes, we act like we got some sense. You know
I know that's right.
They made you mad, and that's what we do. So my plans are this. I'm in a library in Philadelphia. I plan on doing this for another. This is 2022. At the beginning of 2024, we're calling it the day. We're going to ride off into the sunset. But the sunset is a building. We're going to build a Literacy Nation library, and it's going to house 90% of the books are going to be independent authors.
My goodness. That's amazing. And
the collection will also house traditional Black books by the greats. You know, Maya, Baldwin. You know, everybody, Morris, and we're gonna hold those. Will have those books, but in 80% of the collection, we want to be independent authors and children's books. And so, and that's you know, we plan on having a different studios, an art studio in there, a ceramic studio, a theater. We want this place to be just a state-of-the-art building. We've located a building, and now we're getting funding for it. We're trying to build a board that we can work with, and we're just taking our time. You know, people are rushing me, you know, and I'm saying, take your time.
Exciting means wins the race.
Yeah, they got a lot of huckleberries that want to be on your board of trustees that never even spoke to you sometimes. These people doubted you, and now they see where you're going. Now you want to be on my board. No, you can't be on my board. I'm bored with you. How about that? How about that? And Stevie Wonder said it best. We're all amazed, but not amused by all the things you say and do.
Oh, no, that's right.
My song, I'm sick and tired of hearing your song. You haven't done nothing. You haven't done nothing. And so that's what we're doing. Our plan is to just build our own library, build our own Literacy Nation library. And,
listen, y'all gonna make me move to Pennsylvania. That sounds
like down.
Listen, that sounds like a plan to me. I love it. I love when a good plan to come together, especially something like that. I definitely will be. Look, I'm gonna be around. So please let the people know as we wrap up. I want to once again thank you so much. It has been a well spent hour, full of laughs and enjoying your time.
You told me that we were going to have a 3-hour podcast.
I did not tell you no 3 hours. I did not tell you no 3 hours. Stop that. Please tell the people where they can find you at, and what type of donation, or where they can donate if they want to Literacy Nation.
Sure.
Show them.
You go to Literacy Nation, literacynation.com. There's a donate page there. You can find me on Instagram as a Sidewalk Librarian. You can find me at my library, Sharon Hill Public Library. You call it Sharon Hill Public Library, ask to speak to me. My staff's gonna give me the phone. I don't do all of that who's calling and what you want stuff. I'm accessible. I am accessible. You could, like I said, you could donate to Literacy Nation, and we appreciate all donations. And just follow me. But most of all, just have a good time in life. Life is too serious for us to be fighting each other. Life is too serious for us to be jumping up on stage, slapping each other. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? Stop it.
And I live 2 blocks from the high school, from Overbrook High School, where he grew up at. And I'm right here in West Philadelphia. So life's too serious. Let's all just treat each other with kindness and talk about it. And don't talk about it, be about it. And like I said, my motto is with literacy and justice for all.
Absolutely. Well, you all, it has been an hour well spent. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us. And we will see you back here next week. Have a great weekend, everybody.